Oh, well, hello.
Welcome
there.
back.
Hey.
We have to try to get in sync. Welcome back, everyone. Episode 10. I feel like that's a milestone of some sort. 10. So we gotta fix this. I feel like 10 is a milestone of some sort. So
I love that you're talking about being in sync, dude. You literally start off every episode. You're like, "Welcome back," and I'm just sitting here always like,
right. We'll get an intro going. But 10 episodes in. So thanks everyone for tuning in, who tunes in and listens / watches, or a mixture of both. A lot of great feedback on the last episode with her sister, with Rookie, which is really nice. And we plan on having some guests on in the future, family, friends, interesting people to have discussions with. But yeah, a lot's been going on. Sheldon and I have been speaking about a lot recently. It's funny because whenever we get into a conversation, a lot of times he's like, why don't you save it for the podcast? But I think also it's good to sort of mull things over sometimes beforehand. But something that I saw that I was about to bring up that I wanted to talk about was apparently, I didn't hear about this till I saw a video on it, but apparently Ilhan Omar, who does not like Jews, made a comment about, I don't know exactly what the comment was, but a comment about Jewish people and money, an anti-Semitic comment that she got backlash for. And then Joe Rogan was discussing it on one of his recent podcasts, and him and the guests were saying how he didn't really think she needed to apologize for it, or that, and then he made a comment in a joking way that to say that Jews don't like money is like saying Italians don't like pizza. They were laughing. And so I saw Ben Shapiro, I made a video about it. He's like, listen, I'm friends with Joe Rogan. I don't think he's an anti-Semite. He's like, I think it was a bad comment to make. But I was thinking about it a lot because I feel like when it comes to things like that, anti-Semitism or racism of any kind, I feel like it's pretty easy to tell when it's coming from a place of, or from a person who has from a place of hate versus, yeah, you probably shouldn't have said that. You said something in bad taste, but it wasn't coming from a hateful place. You know what I'm saying? And that's why comedy is one of the few places where people get a break, because obviously it's not coming from a place of hate. It's coming from a place of love.
And I feel like nowadays with this PC culture we're living in, or I guess more specifically you, because in America it's to another level, but I feel like comedians don't get a break nowadays. And every single comedian is nervous of what they do. You can't say anything. I mean, even in not in a crazy context where it was like Chris Rock, when he made that comment about, Jada Pinkett Smith in G.I. Jane 2, the fact that Will Smith literally came up on stage and slapped him clear across the face at the Academy Awards. It's like, and this is a year later, and it's still so how do you do that?
Has it been a year?
Yeah, almost a year. Mm-hmm. And it's just crazy because I feel like we're living in a culture where you can't say anything. And I feel to me, I feel we've discussed the fact I feel that happiness is a choice, and it's not something that comes to you, or someone like that. You really have to choose to be happy. And I feel life is crazy. It gets crazy at times. And I feel we can either laugh or cry. And I feel I'm a very open person. Joan Rivers is someone that I always loved, because she didn't care who you were, what you were. She, joked around about everything, but she was also very self-deprecating. So it wasn't just I'm going to shit all over you and that's it. It's she would joke around about herself. Everything was up for grabs. And I like that. Even Family Guy, more so back in the days than now. I feel there has to be a sense where, like you said, when it's coming from a bad place, and when it's not coming from a good place. Joe Rogan making that comment, if I was him living in this PC culture that we're living in now, I probably would have hesitated before saying anything, because, there's going to be backlash. But if this was 15 years ago, even probably 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been such a crazy comment. I personally found it funny. If it came, if it's a Jew making fun of a Jew, obviously it's okay. It's if it's your own people, for sure. But I feel he's not someone who I would consider an anti-Semite in any means. If Kanye West would have said something like this, it would have been a different story. But I feel there is something like that. So I feel also people.
He said a lot worse. He said a lot worse than.
Oh, no, 100%. But I feel it's so, people get so worked up, and it's that phrase, pick and choose your battles. And it's it really, in that context, makes sense. You see people on YouTube, a YouTuber can make the most simple comments ever, and someone can misinterpret it as attack on the community and go crazy on them. And it's Like, this isn't the person you should be spending your time arguing with. You should find the real people who are actually causing the issues.
It's also interesting because there is like historical reasons for why Jews have been bankers and involved in finance and trade, because we were not allowed to own land in various countries that we lived in already. Back in Spain, we couldn't.
And that's how I became a banker. Yeah.
like the Rothschilds, like one of the wealthiest families of all time, right? They're bankers.
Yeah,
which is very sure. It's very interesting. But again, I also think like it's like you said, it's good and it's healthy to joke around, and it also, I feel like, helps maintain a platform where we could have discussion and healthy criticism, because there always is room to grow and work on things. But again, like criticism, not cynicism. I always say, like, I have a really hard time. Like in my own life, there are people, religious people that let's say I have studied some of the writings, or I like listening to them. But once you start getting into waters of putting other ideologies down or other opinions down in the face of yours, I can't. I have a problem that really bothers me. Like, just puts me off completely. But criticism is important. It's healthy in order to grow as a society, as a community. It requires criticism and looking at ourselves and how we can grow. But yeah, I don't think it should have been an issue. I think Ilhan Omar is an anti-Semite. I don't think that's a surprise, but I don't think making a fuss about all of these things, if anything, it's going to take away from serious, real issues, real problems and real occurrences in anti-Semitism that have to be addressed, as well as any other occurrences of any sort of racism.
Yeah, kind of like everything with Barcelona, with like the mayor there condemning Israel and wanting to break ties, even with Tel Aviv, because of the apartheid country that we're throwing over here. We're just out of control, people. Honestly, like, my daily life is just crazy. When I'm not in a tank, I'm in like combat. It's crazy, I just can't. I can't even. It's crazy. Like, and I work as a social media manager in a high tech company here in Tel Aviv, so I'm on social media all day. And on Twitter, like, Tel Aviv is trending, and I'm like clicking on it, and it's all these people just weighing in Israel and the apartheid country, and they're so hard on the Palestinian people and all this stuff. And it's like, it infuriates me, because 95% of these people, if not more so, have never even been to this freaking country ever before. So you literally have no idea what you're talking about. It's like my mother, like, she always gave like wisdom, like words of wisdom. Shout out Miss Joe Brock Oker. Like, she always gave words of wisdom, and like one of them was like, if you don't know what you're talking about, then don't say anything. And it's like, it's so true. You've never even been here. I'm not going to, like, be freaking out about another, unless it's something like Russia, where they invaded Ukraine and we literally know what's going on and all that kind of stuff. Where it's kind of like, why is this going on? You don't know what you're talking about. I'm literally living here. I'm seeing the situation. I know what's going on. You don't. And it's so infuriating to me. And then I see so many people from America who are chiming in the conversation, agreeing and how horrible it is. And like, I see this stuff and it infuriates me. And then I'm like, I'm just so glad I don't even live in that country anymore, because it's one thing when I'm living there watching the news, and I used to visit Israel all the time, and I would see the way the news is portraying it. But like, when I'm literally living here, going through it, when like I mentioned before, with the rockets that were like coming into Tel Aviv, and like, I'm going through it and I'm seeing what's happening, and like, you're telling me what's going on when you literally you're not even here, but I am, and I'm an American living in Israel, seeing what's going on. Like, I'm, firsthand account. Like, bitch, please, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. You don't know who you're protecting. They're not even good to their own people. That's the thing, is I'm not a crazy rightist who are like, all the Palestinian people are bad. Not even a little bit. Not at all. I have friends who are Palestinian. It's not like that at all. It's the fact that the people who are living in these areas that are, if they're Arab Israeli, they're allowed to live wherever they want. But the people who are living in the Palestinian Authority controlled areas, the Palestinian Authority doesn't treat their own people well. It's not like they're treated by their own people well. And a lot of them deserve justice and to be treated better. But they're not getting it from their own people. Don't blame Israel for that.
And most of the aid that ends up going like into Gaza, for example,
not going to all the aid,
it's going to
100%
Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like, as I said to you before, also like with Barcelona, I wasn't surprised, just because it's been a fairly common place for anti-Semitism to occur. Like I said, when I was there, I went to Spain when I was already a while ago, when I was 15. or 16, I went to Spain on a summer program. Shout out to NCSY for changing my life.
Me too.
For the better. And Rabbi Lashak.
I know about that much. For me.
Yeah, I went on a program. We went to Spain, and I went on the same program for 3 years. We traveled to a bunch of different countries in Europe. The only two places that we really had to buckle down on security, that we weren't allowed to wear yarmulkes, we had to wear hats, and we couldn't call a rabbi. We had to call him a professor. Was in, I think, in Greece. We had a security guard who
really Greece?
Super intense. This guy was in the military there for like 30 years. He would walk around. When people would get close to our group, like we'd be walking with like 40 kids or 30 kids, and like a random sweet couple would just be walking by to like get a view, and they would get within like a few feet of our group, and he would just get up like real close next to them in their face and like walk sideways with them till they got past, check for bombs in rooms before we went in. I think he was overdoing it.
In Greece?
Yeah, he was overdoing it. I mean, Greece there's a lot of anti-Semitism there.
Really?
But Spain as well. Yeah, we weren't allowed to wear our yarmulkes anywhere. So, I mean, it's not very surprising, I guess. Spanish Inquisition. So
that's the thing. It's like, really, Petras, like, you're going to talk? Like, what a freaking joke. Like, shall we go back to history? Like, really, people? They're always talking about, they want to pretend like Palestine was here before Israel. Really? Let's go back into history then. Let's really delve into all of that then. Like,
how far back do we go?
Right? When do we pick?
That was a question. Right. Jordan Peterson had he had a sit down interview with Bibi Netanyahu.
Recently, because I can't stand the guy.
Relatively, a few months ago, I think. Whenever he was in
after he was reelected yet again.
But he asked him some of the hard-hitting questions like that, and he answered them very. I was shocked how he answered them. He usually doesn't mention God so much or reference the Torah at all.
Hey,
really,
hold on, but let's not get twisted.
It's interesting to hear.
None of these people, no one in politics, specifically a prime minister, is having any interview without pre-approved questions, and they all have media training, and he has been in office so many times.
For sure.
He knows exactly what to say. And
I'm still shocked that he would say it. At the end of the day,
because he has such a right-wing government right now, and those are his people that he needs, that he has to say things like that. That's what it is.
But the right's always been behind.
It's not that he really believes that. No. His government right now is extremely right, which is why we're having all these protests in Tel Aviv right now, because it's an extremely right, anti-LGBTQ government. It's really crazy. This is the most right-wing government we've had in I don't even know how long. And he knows his audience, just like Trump did. Everyone's like, oh, Trump loves the Jews. Trump knows who's going to be voting for him.
Right.
So he goes for those people. That's the same thing with Bibi. And it even works on you. You think, oh my God, he's talking about God. That's exactly what he wants. If he heard you say that, he would be like shepping nachas, because
very funny. I never said I liked Bibi or that.
No, not about that. No, I'm saying
I just said I was shocked. I'm surprised that he even mentioned it.
It's strategic. It's not like he mentioned it.
I can see that. Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's the thing is, politics is just such bullshit across the board. It's literally so. That's the thing is, even something minor like that, like thinking God or anything like that, or acknowledging God, it's strategic and it's thought
okay. So
through.
let me ask you this. I know this is a digression, but I think it's important. What would it take for someone to convince you that what they're saying is coming from a true place? If you now know that every single politician or someone who's trying to make a change is really just has an agenda going.
Not everyone trying to make a change. I feel like there's certain things, in reality, when you're a politician, you can't be your 100% authentic self. You literally have an entire entourage behind you, aside from all the investors and the people who are investing into your campaign, that you owe them. And even though you're not allowed to get kickbacks, it's legal and all this stuff, but you owe them. And then you have the whole entourage of people, and then you're kind of like a puppet, and they're the puppeteers who are crafting you into exactly what you need to be for that position. So it's really hard to be your authentic self because you can't, because you're told to wipe that away and you have to clear your mind. And like I've said before, you're becoming president or prime minister of a country or anything like that, like you're literally taking the weight of the world on your shoulders. Like that becomes like a literal thing. So if you're choosing that position, everything, there has to be an ego behind it, and you're willing to adapt in whatever way you need to be.
There has to be flexible. An ego behind it.
There's no way that someone who wants that kind of power does not have a large ego or a narcissistic personality.
What if they don't want that kind of power, but they
wouldn't run for it?
I think, or there's no one else who seems apt who is running.
Give me one example of somebody.
I don't know anyone. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
I'm saying, what would it take to convince you? That was my initial question. What would it take to convince you that someone is for real? That someone is.
It's like there could be somebody who's incredible at their job, but they don't want to be that forefront person. So that's the thing is and honestly, especially in America, it's not about what do you bring to this world? How are you going to make things better? It's a popularity contest and who's hot. That's literally what it comes down to. It's really mind-boggling. But like a lot of people, it's kind of it's like there's some songwriters who don't ever want to be in the front stage. They write top 10 songs for so many artists, but they don't want that spotlight. So those people are getting the royalties and everything, but they don't want to be that front center stage. And I feel like in politics there is a lot like that. People who are writing the speeches and all this stuff. There's people who do have a lot of things to bring to the table, but they don't want to be at that forefront. That's the thing is it's someone who's being that leader. It's taking on a lot of. Yeah, you are the leader. It's like in battle,
right,
like you have so many different sects. Like you are the main person that everyone's turning to. Like, okay, what's next? But then you have everything what was going on in America with the State of the Union address from Joe Biden, and then you have psychopaths like Marjorie Taylor Greene, whatever the hell her name is. She's disgusting.
I didn't watch the
liar. All these other Republicans literally.
I didn't watch it yet. I have to watch the State of the Union.
Like on Perm, how like whenever they say Haman's name, you're like supposed to stomp the floor, like wave a grogger, like the things to make noise. Like that was literally the Republicans at the State of the Union address. It was embarrassing, whether you're right or left. Right. They made asses of themselves. It didn't even seem like a real State of the Union address. It's like, what is this world? I've sat these speeches where I'm sitting there listening to the person, like thinking in my head, like, really, bitch? Is this really what you're saying?
No, I'm not defending it. I think it's.
She's
I agree with you 100%.
With some dead, like, Shih Tzu Maltese around her neck. Like, literally, she's disgusting. Disgusting. And how is it that someone doesn't get assassinated like that, but they're assassination attempts on, like, regular, normal people? That's not a threat. Don't get twisted.
I think I agree with you. I haven't watched it yet. I'll watch some of the highlights.
It's
probably
mortifying. I think this is the second time as an American I've been so embarrassed since the Capitol riots. This is it's just as embarrassing.
It also reminds me of Trump's State of the Union address when Nancy Pelosi stood up after and ripped up the speech. And
that was amazing. That was amazing. But she didn't interrupt him or anything like that. She very passively, aggressively read, just like his other address where she stood behind him, like
right. No, 100%. I agree.
So like that's the thing. It's like throwing shade. It's like I throw shade all the time, but it's about doing it when you're
just
still yelling,
maintain a certain level of respect and formality.
And unfortunately, Marjorie Taylor Greene, honestly, she either has an IQ below 3. Or she just got hit by like a car really hard, and
she also got voted damage.
She has severe. First of all, that's really concerning. But the woman, like, if she got hit in the head with a baseball bat really hard because it was metal, I would understand that she got some sort of concussion or like CTA, call to action, whatever the hell that like brain disease is that all the football players are getting, like CT or whatever.
It's
like,
a real thing.
Right. So if she had that, I would be way more sympathetic. Unfortunately, she's just some white ass bitch who has a lot of retarded opinions. And I'm sorry, that's not a misuse of the word for anyone who thinks it is, because actually, you know what it is, because it's actually offensive to people who actually have a disability, because she's disabled in a different way. Severe issues. Someone like that shouldn't exist, let alone be voted in. She needs to be in a mental asylum. She should be in a room no bigger than a 3x3 that is all white, where she gets her meals delivered within a very small envelope type of box. That's all. She should not be out walking in the world.
A very small envelope type of box.
Like, because her arm might come out and like grab them, pull them in, and like eat them for all we know. She's a sociopath / psychopath / I don't even know what term to call the bitch, because she's out of her damn mind.
We should get her on. To have a discussion.
Oh yeah, Marjorie, please come onto the show. I would just love that. I would be
MTG.
drinking this wine so fast, I'd have to keep walking back and forth in my kitchen to grab another bottle because
you'd have
I'd
to
be
just
like,
get-
I
you-
cannot.
You just get an IV drip, right?
Right? Just an IV drip, just put it into me, like literally. Oh my God, give me that propofol or whatever Michael Jackson got. Like
Yeah,
seriously,
I have to. I haven't watched it. I did see a. I think I'm not sure if I sent it to you. Some they do like they dub the video so it looks like they're saying other words, like the bad lip reading of the State of the Union address. So funny, but I have to. Yeah, I mean the government's been a joke for so long now. It almost seems like a TV show. They could make the entire last 10 years like a Netflix show in like a century
literally.
from now.
Like I've said before, as an American who moved to Israel, since I moved here, I literally have been sitting back watching TV like, what the hell is going on in America?
Yep.
Like, and when I decided to move here, I remember telling my therapist, like, I was like, I don't know, I feel like America's just kind of like falling apart and stuff. And like since I moved here, it's literally been falling apart and stuff, but like way faster than like I really thought.
Right.
And it's like I'm like sitting back drinking my wine, obviously. Like I'm a freaking Olivia Pope, and I'm just like, damn.
Right. I was speaking to someone, to a friend of mine the other day about America and if we're going to plan on staying here, whether or not we're going to make the move to Israel, how soon? Because we both feel obviously like we spoke about that on that one episode. I'm not sure which
yeah, but
one
we
it
didn't really get to speak to about why it is you don't live in Israel yet.
Right, that's what everyone said to me afterwards. We heard why Sheldon moved. We didn't hear why you're not there yet.
Everyone
Well, the answer is
that's
just
me.
because we have things we're doing here now, vis-a-vis.
Things that we're doing here now, right? We have like stuff going on and stuff.
Yeah,
So
we
like,
have
we're
lots
like
of
really
things
busy.
happening, and we
We'll
have
to
lots of
circle
things
back.
happening and stuff. No, well, my wife is in school. I was working here. I was teaching, and right now I am working. My wife is working, and we both want to. I think she has hours she has to finish up. She's a social worker. Shout out. And
Maybe she can help Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, I mean, there's just more logistical things that you have to work out. Mainly just work. Make sure that you have a job.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's ways to get help, but that's a discussion for a different time. But yeah, we've been in touch. We opened a teak filter with Nefesh B'Nefesh, got that going. So God willing, in the right time, B'Sha'a Tova, in the right time, we'll make the move there. But all this stuff happening just makes it more. It just presses it more into us that we're making the right decision, aiming the trajectory of our lives in the direction of moving to Israel, rather than.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just scary. Like, the 6-year-old that shot his teacher, the 13-year-old in Evanston, Illinois, who was just caught, who was going to shoot up like his whole school and everything.
Really?
It's like, and then, yeah, I sent it into our family chat. And like, when you hear about things that happen in this state or that state or this city and that city, it's one thing. When you literally hear about a school that like you literally know and you know that area and everything, it brings
So
a
which
much
school?
more.
Where it was? What do you know? What school in Evanston it was?
Not off the top of my head. Let me look it up.
That's crazy. I wonder what
Shoot
that
Middle
is.
School in Evanston.
What's it called?
Shoot Middle School. 13 years old.
Shoot Middle School.
Mm-hmm. He brought a gun on Monday.
He was 13?
13 years old. 13. It's like, bitch, didn't you just have a bar mitzvah? Like, grab those checks and go to the bank. Why are you shooting up a place? No, but I'm just joking. In a serious matter, it's disgusting. And every single time this happens, which literally, I feel like every day on the news, you're hearing about another school shooting. And it's like, are you joking me? Like, it's not normal.
That's crazy.
We've become
How do
so
you even
desensitized to it.
That's crazy. Yeah, Shoot Middle School.
And I always just think, I'm like, these parents, like, you don't want to believe that, like, did you not see any red flags?
Right.
Especially nowadays when this is happening all the time, where they're talking about it on the news.
You probably do see red flags, but when do you know to draw the line between, when do you know as a parent between my child has serious issues to he might actually go shoot up a school tomorrow?
Right. Right. But how did this 13-year-old kid get a gun that was loaded?
All right, so those are questions that need to be
Didn't go to a
answered.
store. Why was it in the house for him to access? Because there clearly were red flags of some sort.
Right. That's
so
an
why
issue.
would you be having a gun that he could have access to?
Was it a gun in the
your
house?
home?
Was it a gun from the house? Is that confirmed?
I mean, I can't speak on that. But
So then how do you know that?
because he's 13 years old. 13 years old. It's
There has to
freaking
be some
disgusting.
information on it.
Disgusting. And in America, it's always like, oh, that's it. You have two sides. Only two.
He showed a handgun
Either-
to his classmates.
And that's why he got caught, by the way. Thank God that they did catch him. It could have been a freaking disaster. And now you're not only killing those kids, you're ruining the families' lives. You're
Okay, so
literally-
hold on. The kid in the school didn't seem like he went in there to shoot anyone. It literally just it sounds like he just brought a gun to school and showed his friends. Did you read?
sorry.
Did you read the article?
Yeah, no, I've been reading all about this. I'm just trying to figure out how you say that like that's a normal thing.
It's not a
He didn't
normal
go-
thing. It's
He
terrible,
didn't go
but
to
it's
the shit
different
up
to
the
go.
school. He brought a loaded gun to school and showed his friends.
No, it's obviously insane, but there's a difference between walking into a school with the intention to shoot up and walking in, pulling out a gun and start trying to shoot people than going to school and while you're hanging out with your friends, pulling out a gun out of your backpack and saying, look what I got.
Right. But why was it loaded?
Right. It doesn't even say that it doesn't even say how he got the gun. It just says a lot of
That's
the parents
thing.
are asking.
But
I
at
don't
13 years
understand
old,
how.
think when you were 13 years old, there's no way you're getting a gun at 13 years old unless it's from within your house.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, they don't even say.
because it's so fresh. And I'm sure they're figuring out, and I'm sure there's an investigation on the parents.
Right, and this is already a couple months ago. There was a 14-year-old student who brought a gun to school in
This 6-year-old who
Chicago.
shot his teacher a few weeks ago. 6 years old. How
Yeah, I
does a
don't,
6-year-old know how to work a gun? How does a 6-year-old have access to a gun? How does it?
I mean, how to work a gun is you could see it from any movie or TV show that any of these kids are probably watching.
6 years old.
Yeah.
If you have a safety on, you think that kid knows how to turn the safety off before you pull the trigger? Like,
Well,
think
it
back when
depends
you
on
were
the
6,
gun.
first grade. You think, no, you have your toy guns, you just pull the trigger and when it's a legit gun, how did he have access to a loaded weapon with the safety off?
Well, first of all, you could figure out how to turn safety on or off when you're that old.
Yeah, like a oopsie doopsie.
It's still surprising. It's still crazy.
Beyond
and
surprising.
terrible, but
Beyond
it's
surprising.
still like he could have physically done it. You know.
Oh no, physically for sure. But it's just psychotic. You're 6 years old.
Right.
How did he have access to a gun? Forget like even locking it away and everything. Literally put it on the top shelf of your bookcase. How is a 6-year-old getting to that unless he has a huge ass ladder that he's good at climbing up and you don't even see him doing all of that? 6
Right.
years old. If he's not in play group, where are the parents watching him? It's like the mother is packing the lunch for the kid. Did you pack the gun for the kid, or he just grabbed that on his
Right.
way out with his mints? Like, it's not normal. And
That's,
I'm like,
that's what always scared me about potentially owning a gun was like, even if you have a safe, it's still just scary when if you have kids in the house. You just want to make sure that like
it's like growing up. Our father had a gun. We used to always joke around, like, if someone breaks in our house, what are you going to do? Because he kept his gun at his office, so he would have to hop in his car, drive to his office, get to the floor that he's on, open that door, go to the office that's actually his door. Open that door,
Right.
Go to one cabinet, unlock the cabinet, grab out the locked gun case, unlock it, grab the gun, go to a different cabinet, unlock that, take out the locked case with the ammo inside, take that out, put in
Right.
the gun, go all the way back down his car, drive back home, and then he's ready for the intruder. It's like,
I mean, I don't think at that point, I don't think he had it for security or defense as
no,
much as
but
just.
even so, he had it locked away and like
Right.
all separated and everything like that, and
Right.
it wasn't even within the house.
Right. I mean, when we got older, he had him in the house.
And it was not an access to any small children.
No, it was not, but it
And
was on
the
top
ammo
of the
was-
thing. He had an
So he had
M16
one gun that was
rifle on top
right
of it.
on top of a bookshelf that was not accessible to children, but it also was not loaded, and the ammo was not in the house.
Right, that's true.
So, like, that's the thing is, like, it's a huge
Right.
difference. You have a gun for a safe or something like that. I get it. You want to keep a gun on your nightstand table because of safety. Lock your door. Don't let your children in there. Like, it's just not normal.
It's interesting
like,
because while you bring that up with Dad having a gun in Chicago, I remember, and I think I was telling someone this the other day, this story, but my friend Shragi and I, shout out Shragi, when we were growing up in Chicago, one Shabbos afternoon, Saturday afternoon, we walked, I think I walked to his house, or I was staying there, and we were walking to a friend's house, and we were in pretty heavily Jewish area in Chicago, West Rogers Park. There are non-Jews there as well. It's a lot of people. It's a big area. And we were walking down the street, and all of a sudden 2 cars fly down the block next to us and come to a halt, like right where we are at the corner of a block. And there's a couple in one car and one guy in the other car. And one of the guys pulls out a gun. The guy in the bigger car, and shoots at the other car. Sorry, like yawning my story away. I'm exhausted. My kids have been
I'm,
a
like,
little bit
sitting here like, huh?
under the
And you're
weather
like,
the
oh,
last few days.
really good.
My kids have been under the weather last few days. Everyone's getting out of it. Thank
It's
God.
that time of year.
But I'm very
I feel
tired.
like everyone's getting sick. Half my team wasn't in the office today because everyone's feeling
But the
sick.
guy shot at his car, and they just took off. So I beelined it out of there. Shruggy's just standing there like shocked.
Mind you, let's be real.
Freaking out, running.
If this was 2023, you'd be standing there TikToking it. Like, oh my God, give me a shout out if you think this is crazy.
I wouldn't, but yeah, it was. But that was like one of the first times I was like, wow, maybe people carrying guns, in shuls and in synagogues is a potentially good idea.
That's the thing in America. It's always with gun reform. It's always like black or white. It's either everyone deserves a gun, our Second Amendment, we all deserve rifles and automatic weapons and all this stuff, or the opposite side where it's like no guns for anyone. We have to ban all of them. Everything would have. There's like such a gray area that's not even touched upon, and this is happening every day. I live in Israel. People are like, "Oh, is it dangerous there?" When's the last time you heard about a school shooting here in Israel?
Right.
How often do you hear about a school shooting in a country that's not America? That's the thing is there's a much bigger issue. And in Israel, there's areas you're able to get guns. I live in Tel Aviv. I can't even get a gun if I want to. And in the areas where you're allowed to get guns, you have to go through a rigorous process, a few interviews, and they do a whole background check and mental health check. So it's not so simple. In America, it's like, oh, yeah, you're 18 or like close to it. Okay, here you go. Here's an automatic assault rifle. Happy birthday. Like, where is
the question I want to know is what is the underlying issue? Why are people going out and shooting up schools? What's the what is it? Is it a need for attention and they're sociopaths and they just want to see themselves on the news and having killed a bunch of people? Like, what is it? That. Because I think you can get access to weapons in other countries. Also, you can, if you're a criminal or if you're, you can get a gun in America the same way. If they ban guns, bad guys would still get access to guns. There's got to be a deeper underlying issue.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people who do want that notoriety. A lot of people who are like inspired. Like there's been shootings in the past where they said that they were inspired by like the Columbine shootings and stuff. So there are definitely people who want that notoriety, who want to get as many people as possible to be like, ooh, look what I accomplished. It's so sick. And then there's other people that it's like, that's the thing. It's like, not only where were their parents, but like there had been signs. So were the kids not in therapy? If they were in therapy, the therapist didn't get any inkling. Like, there's just so many questions that I have that I'm just like, what the heck? What the heck? It's really frightening.
Terrible.
Like, it's like if I would be petrified to have kids and like put them in public school in America. Like every day you drop your kids off. Like, love you, have a good day. You drive off. Like, not knowing, like, am I going to see them again? Like, is it going to be dangerous for them to be in English class? Like, it's not normal.
Right.
It's really crazy. Well, I guess
I can't imagine, especially the parents with children in schools that this has happened at, or in any surrounding areas. Just it's got to be terrifying.
And what happened? And there's a lot of families who have more than one kid. So it's like whether your kid was, whether he survived or he didn't, God forbid, or something like that. Like, do you feel comfortable ever sending your other kid back to school? If your kid did survive, are you ever going to feel comfortable? You're not going to have PTSD from dropping your kid off to school every day. Like, even if you go to a different school, it must always be in the back of your mind. Like, you're literally ruining so many lives, erasing generations that are to come. Like, literally, there's so much damage that is not even comprehensible. Right. That it's not. It's just so horrific. It's so horrific, and like, I just can't imagine it. And I feel like, for a lot of these kids, if it's like some sort of depression or like they feel like the whole world's against them or stuff like that, like you need to either get yourself help or like why, like, I would never promote self-harm or anything like that. But like, why would you bring other people into that with you?
Right. Yeah, there's a saying in the Talmud, in the Gemara, if you destroy one life, you destroy the world.
Literally,
right? All the generations that could have come from that person.
Like, it's like you don't even realize the impact it makes. It's frightening. But I guess
I feel like there is, at least my belief as my personal belief as a Jew, and what I've learned is that there is always a balance of good and bad. And unfortunately, obviously, the bad and the radical minority and everything always tends to have the loudest voice. But it's up to us to try to focus on the good things and build on that, right? Rather than dwelling and complaining about the darkness, to increase in light and good things. Be a good person. Do nice things for people without posting it on TikTok.
Right? It's
don't double it and give it to the next person. Just
I'm
give
like
it to the first
so
person.
Amazing. So I'm going to give money to this like ridiculous homeless person or whatever. Here's $20, but make sure I get a good angle of myself. Look at me. I'm giving this homeless person $20. Aren't I amazing?
Right. Seriously, that's what it feels like.
Literally, it's like embarrassing.
But people watch that. It gives them views, and
that's what's so sad. If you're a giving person and you want to give back to the world, why do you need the notoriety? Why do you need to publicize it? Why do you need to film it? It's only for selfish reasons.
So, I mean, some people, I think, will do it also because they can raise money to actually help people. But I feel like you can tell when it's just like a TikTok influencer versus someone actually trying to help people out.
It's like, look at me. I just got like 5 gallons of lip filler put on my lips, and now I'm giving $20 to this homeless person. So like and subscribe. Yeah. Right. I literally can't. And switching gears a little bit. You spoke a little bit about Sam Smith and his performance at the Grammys.
Right, and I haven't seen it.
I know you said something about like you heard he was at the Grammys, and I was looking for it online. I only found like clips that were from like news programs and stuff. But then I did watch the music video, and I have very mixed feelings about it. I know there's been like a lot of backlash, first of all, there's been a lot of people who are like, oh my God, it's satanic worship. He was on stage promoting satanic worship, all this stuff. It's like, really, really, people? He literally had devil horns on a red hat. How many people on Halloween wear devil horns in a very jokingly way? Are they promoting devil worship? He's at the Grammy Awards. Like I said with politicians, how they're media trained, any of these celebrities, he's doing something controversial, coming out of the song like that intentionally, having a performance like that intentionally. That's what's going to spark interest. That's what's going to like make him more money. And it's sparking, talk on both sides. Left, right, doesn't matter. The right is like, oh my God, this is crazy. The left is like, oh my God, this is amazing. But everyone's talking about it, and it's all part of this, and it's all a planned thing. And to me, it makes sense. On the other hand, though, so from one hand, I see it as like a little much and everything. On the other hand, as someone who is part of the LGBTQ community, I identify as a gay man. I grew up never seeing anything like this. There are a lot of TV shows who they clearly implement the token gay character like they used to do with the token black character. It's like, look, we're diverse. We have one black person. And it's like, no. That's what they do with gay people. And it's like, so there are a lot of shows and stuff nowadays that they do have representation in a more authentic and genuine way. I never had that as a kid. The only show plus that, like I've always talked about, was Will and Grace. There's nothing. And even in that show, they had to be very careful in the way they explored that. So
Right.
I think there is something to say where it's like, if Madonna and Britney and all these other people could go onto the stage. So the one thing I have is the fact that's the Grammy Awards. I do think the Grammy Awards, at least for me, I always thought of it as like a more like sophisticated kind of award show. I feel like the performance that it seemed much more like a VMA show, which is a little bit trashier, for lack of better terms.
Right.
For Grammy Awards, I feel like the Grammy Awards is much more of a sophisticated event, so it definitely didn't have that vibe. But I think if it was like a VMA or something like that, I feel like it's a way of showing that, like, how is it that we could sexualize women and put them in this light, and that's acceptable or controversial or sexy, but the second that it's kind of flipped the script, it's like, oh, well, that's a little much. Kind of like when Adam Lambert, shortly after
I was just thinking about that when I was
shortly after he won American Idol, he did that performance at the AMAs, and for 1 second, he kissed his pianist, not penis, pianist, and that was the biggest scandal. In the West Coast, they had like a 8-second delay, so they had to cut to a different camera angle for that scene, like all that. Britney and Madonna in 2003 kissed on the VMAs, and that was zoomed in on, and they immediately panned to Justin Timberlake to get his reaction because him and Britney had recently broke up. So that's an iconic moment that's in history and in the books, and that's all everyone talks about. But the second he kissed his pianist for a second, that was like, oh, this is crazy.
Right.
And it's like, so there is a double standard. I feel like there is that line to balance with whether or not he did it so well. Like, I feel like I said, I feel like for the Grammy Awards, I feel like it was a little much. I would not have done that for Grammy Awards.
I mean, my personal take is just I don't like any of it from either side. I don't think anyone should be sexualized. I don't think anyone should be doing any of that in public. But that's my own.
But the thing is in that industry, it's not even about your talent nowadays. They don't even in the becoming an artist nowadays. They don't even care if you can sing it, whether or not you can sing.
It's about being an entertainer. Can you be an entertainer?
And sex sells. That's just the bottom line, and it's been like that forever. And it's been done in different ways throughout history, where it's either some ways it's, women are sexualized much more blatant, or it's in terms of owning the sexuality and promoting yourself. But in every, decade or anything like that, it's always sex sells, but they market it in a different way, but they know it's going to sell at the end of the day. At the end of the day, regardless of how it's sold, it's the same thing. And that's the fact. So it's like, I kind of understand it at the same time. It's kind of crazy, but I also kind of understand it. If you're thinking like just a business person, you're not thinking of people like people, and you're thinking of them like objects, and you know what's going to sell. I work in marketing. If you're just thinking in a marketer's mind, you're looking at your artists as just objects, then yeah.
Right, and people are as numbers.
You're going to have to figure out. Exactly. So you have to figure out, okay, now how am I going to turn this person, whatever. The thing that's sad though is like, Sam Smith, like, I'm not obsessed with him. I think he's very talented, but like he has a great voice. He's a great songwriter. He was always compared to like Adele and stuff. I keep saying he actually, and I apologize because I should be saying they because he identifies as they and them. So I should apologize for that, for misusing the pronouns. So like, they always had a very, strong, voice and an incredible song, writing. And that I feel like doing stuff like this is kind of overshadowing his talent. Like if Adele all of a sudden started coming up on stage, twerking and all that stuff, we'd be like, what is going on? How do you go from Hello to like Miley Cyrus overnight? It's like a little weird.
That's what I said once about Dennis Rodman. He's one of the greatest defenders of all time, but he's not remembered for that talent as much as he's remembered for his eccentric ways of expressing himself.
But a lot of that is also from the media and the fact that was so unheard of in those days. When we were younger, if someone colored their hair colors, it was like they would always get stares. Nowadays, like people had color in their hair, it's like, oh, that's cool. Oh, like he was living in a different world. And he didn't care what the media was saying and stuff about him, that he just did his thing. And that's what made it such a big deal.
It's also Sam Smith didn't have this. I don't think he ever had. I never really listened to his music. I've heard his songs obviously on the radio. But he never seemed like he was a particularly, I would say out there person when it comes to these types of things from his older music.
So when he
seems like all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah, well, so when they came out with their older music back in the days, they were in the closet, I believe, and they didn't come out as anything, whether it was a gay man at first and then non-binary. So I think a lot of that had to do with that. And so that's why, to an extent, I get it. It's like, like they're still newly out and exploring themselves, and they're exploring their sexuality and all that stuff. And I feel like when I was newly out of the closet, like I used to wear a lot of makeup, or like I did my nails a lot. Like I was so like, I was just so like closeted. I just can't even think of the term off my head. I was so closeted and so to myself. And like I said before, like it's not just about everyone else and what they're thinking of me. It's like hiding it from myself. So when I finally got to a point where I was able to be myself, I didn't know what the real me was like, because I've been putting on this mask and this persona for so many years that I never knew what I was truly like and what I wanted. So I had all these different like awkward stages, like trying to figure out what I liked and all this stuff. And it's like, and I slowly got to a place where it's like I felt the most comfortable being me. And I feel like everyone goes to that experience. And whether that is wearing makeup or doing the nails or, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Like I found me, if they find them, that's great. And that's what's the most important. So I feel like they're on a journey of finding themselves. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I feel like it is pushing limits for money. I feel like it's pushing limits to show that the LGBTQ plus community is here. You can't get rid of us. So it's like we're here, we're queer, get used to it. And then I also and then I just feel like it's also exploring themselves as an openly non-binary, sexual person. So I feel like there's a lot of stages to it that it's very easy to make things very flat and like this is what it is and all this stuff. And I feel like there is a lot of layers to things. But I do stand by the fact that I just feel like the Grammys wasn't the right place for it. I just feel like all these award shows really lost their glitz and glamour and all this stuff.
Yeah, I think America in general has lost its glitz and glamour.
Oh, totally. Totally. Now you just have everyone looking like the same. They're all like puffer fish. Like Madonna at the Grammys literally looked like a puffer fish.
But she came back and spoke out against everyone who was
of ageism
and misogyny.
And it ain't ageism at all. Like literally, you could be any age. Doesn't matter. What happened to your face?
But I don't think anyone mentioned her face. I think they were just mentioning the fact that she doesn't look the same.
Exactly. I didn't find any tweet like, oh my God, she looks crazy. Oh, and also, she's like 60-something years old. Right. No one's saying that. No one's like, oh my God, Madonna looks out of her mind. P.S. She's 60-something. No one's brought up her age. Nobody has brought up her age. Even Heidi Montag, when she got all this plastic surgery after she was on the hills at like 20-something years old, people were going crazy about it. And she was 20-something years old. Was an ageism bitch. It's like, what did you do to your face? And like we've spoken about, Simon Cowell and all these people in the past. I'm all about that life. I'm all about you better work. Like you do you, boo. But you look crazy, boo. Like calm down. And I don't even know if that's all filler. Like I don't think you could deflate that shit. Like that is she's been pulled so hard. One false smile and her face is just gonna rip clear off. She's gonna look like Venom and Spider-Man. Like it's scary. Like she should be being monitored for that face being ripped. It's I never really understood that. I know we spoke about that last time. Just not, people want. I never understood people wanting to, or what they're trying to achieve, or if they think they look good. But the biggest trend right now is buccal fat removal surgery, which is right under here. You have buccal fat, which is right below a bunch of nerves and everything. And basically, people are getting it removed, which, if you're not going to a good doctor, it's only like an hour. But if you're not going to a good doctor, they can literally damage your nerves and fuck up your face. But they go under and suction out the buccal fat, so it gives you like super sucked-in cheekbones, so you look like crazy.
Oh my gosh, what's this called?
Everyone loves that. Buccal fat removal surgery. I think it's like BUCCLE.
BUCCAO.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, to give you that contour. Is that what they call it?
Right. So, bitch, contour your face. Because the thing is also is as we age, we lose collagen in our faces and everything, and your face starts to get more gaunt.
It's pronounced buccal?
Yeah. I mean, so in the UK, they call it buccal.
I was going to say, I would have said buccal.
In the UK, they call it buccal, I believe. And like,
That's
so
crazy.
like you know, if you're removing that or everything, as you age and your face gets more gaunt, you're going to look like you're a freaking skeleton.
Right.
Unless
right.
that's what you're going for. If you want that Mary-Kate and Ashley look, like you go for it. But like, it's a lot. And also you don't know what the side effects are. We don't, like, there's certain things we don't know why we have it, but it's there for
Right.
a reason.
Right. You gotta
So
be.
yeah, so I have an appointment next week to get my buccal fat removed. I'm totally kidding. I just want like an eyebrow lift.
But yeah, so on that note, I did want to mention before we sign off, I know I mentioned briefly in the beginning, we wanted to start maybe posting something so we can get some suggestions or anything. If anyone wants to send in to either me or Sheldon personally through any form of communication, any questions or suggestions
Instagram,
or recommendations,
Facebook.
Any questions, we'll obviously keep everything anonymous. If you want to send in questions anonymously, I would say just message them to us, and we won't tell anyone who said it.
Right? I'll be like, this anonymous message comes from Karen down the block, and she's wondering why she can't reach your manager.
Right. So send those in, and thank you everyone again for listening in, for tuning in, and
Subscribe
catch you next week.
YouTube.
Subscribe.
We'll see you soon.
Hit the like button, as they
I just
say.
did it again, like last time, the peace sign. Like I'm a
the peace sign, like it's exactly.
Guys, bye. I'm going back to
And we'll catch
2014.
everyone next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye.